Gün Işığı Kitaplığı YouTube kanalında AYNA'nın 19. bölümünde bugün çok özel bir konuğumuz var. Sevgili Vladimir Tumanov bizimle. Vladimir, welcome again.
Teşekkürler.
First of all, I would like to thank your readers of all ages for their inspiration and encouragement in many ways. Today I want to talk not about your books that have reached millions of readers in Turkey, but about the human behind those books. Firstly, how was your Istanbul week?
I have to say that the pace that I have experienced, the pace of events within this 1 week, makes me feel as if I have been in Istanbul for 6 months. And as a result, I have the feeling that I've gotten to know very many people, events, places, things, smells, sounds. I feel at home here. So I would say that I would answer, how was my Istanbul week? I would say, how was my Istanbul month or year?
Okay, then you came together with your readers at Istanbul Book Fair. How would you summarize your trip, especially meeting your readers?
So I have been interacting with Turkish children through various platforms like Skype and Zoom for quite a number of years. But there's nothing like looking into the eyes of a child who is pushing a shopping cart at the BKM store full of my books and following me as I go to the IMZA station. Zoom cannot replace that.
Of course.
And there is nothing like seeing the tears in the eyes of a little girl who started crying next to me because she started reading my books as a 7-year-old and now she's a teenager, and she felt that she has, or that I have accompanied her throughout her growing years.
Amazing.
There is nothing like human presence, and that's how I feel about this experience.
And so amazing example. As I mentioned, you have convinced many people to think differently through your books. You showed your readers different perspectives. You have pointed out how change and transformation are possible, I think. How did these books change Vladimir? These 6 books.
Yes, that's a very good question. So, of course, every author changes just by writing. And every book is one step in such a process of change. I would say that the process of creation has given me the chance to look at life as a kind of story, with connections between events, with a timeline where life turns into an artistic process. And I feel that this turning of life into art is one of the gifts that writing has brought me, but also because writing for children is a special kind of art. You have to explain things in a very clear and approachable way, which makes it possible for me to understand many things. So, for example, because my books very frequently have to do with scientific concepts, and because that involves a lot of research, I have learned a tremendous amount from various scientific fields, from astronomy to geophysics to geography to math. I think I have learned from my books as much as the children might have learned from them.
Before your books and your identity as a writer, I would like to ask about your main profession. You are also an academician. And I want to talk about your becoming a scientist. How did this shape your perspective on life, your identity as a writer, or your way of living?
Well, I went into academia, so the world of universities and research, 40 years ago. I was a graduate student at first, and of course, academic pursuits and research teach us what it means to know something. And that is a very important skill that it takes time to acquire, to distinguish knowledge from opinion. And I think that my process of decades of academic life has taught me to be humble, because knowledge always means limits. Knowledge always means that you don't know something. And I actually think that's something that is lacking in the world today. There are far too many people, especially politicians, who think they know, whereas they don't, or they don't know exactly. And so this is what it has. This is the contribution that academic life has made. It has taught me how to think.
And what kind of kid was Vladimir?
I was influenced by my very diverse past, because I was born in a one world, which was the Soviet Union, a world that has disappeared. And I moved into a completely different world, the Western world. And so I had to change everything, my thinking, my languages, because I started out being unilingual Russian.
You're 12 years old.
Yes, I was 12 years old. And I had to go into a world where I had to master other languages and become comfortable in that world. And as a result, there are two of me in some ways. There is that past self, that little boy who's still kind of there. But sometimes the old man who looks at the little boy and thinks, was that really me? And I don't know. I really don't know.
I'm curious about your environments which you grew up in Soviet Union. For example, was there anyone in the family who read books? Or what were games which you played in home or streets?
Okay, so I will start with the last question. Games, okay? Soviet society, and unfortunately Russian society today, were and are obsessed with the Second World War. The Second World War never ended there, to this day, by the way. And that unfortunately is reflected in, or was reflected in, children. The only game that my friends and I played was World War II, which I find very regrettable today when I look back. When I came to Canada, it was a country so far away from the war and this history of war and this obsession with war that it was like a breath of fresh air. So that's the games that I played. As far as books, my family was absolutely obsessed with books. My mother constantly brought me books. And many of those books, by the way, were foreign books, translated into Russian, which opened up a whole world for me. I was particularly interested in Scandinavian literature like Selma Lagerlöf and like Astrid Lindgren. It really was a window into that Europe that was closed off to us. And as a child, I was already preparing myself, even though I didn't know we were leaving one day, to go out into that Europe and to go through that window. So books have played a crucial role in my life.
I remember a photo of you with your dog. What is her or his name?
He has a literary name, speaking of books. His name is taken from Winnie the Pooh.
Oh, Winnie the Pooh.
And if you remember, there is a tiger in Winnie the Pooh, whose name is not Tiger, but Tigger, with two G's. And so, when we got this dog, my daughter, who loved Winnie the Pooh, named the dog Tigger. And that is the name of the dog.
Amazing. You get along with animals, right?
I love animals. My favorite animals are, not surprisingly, dogs. I think dogs are the best people.
Of course. And 3 years ago, in a speech you gave to teachers, you had a sentence like this: the task of the educator and the purpose of good stories are very similar. You had a sentence like this. Could you explain this a little more?
Human beings are storytelling creatures. We turn everything into stories. We've been doing this for probably certainly tens of thousands of years, ever since language appeared. I think we understand the world as stories. And what is a story? A story is a series of connected events in time with causal relationship, with cause and effect. Now, cause and effect, that's how the human mind grasps the world. And education is really about teaching cause and effect. Whether it's physics, whether it's social science, whether it's humanities, we're really doing the same thing. We're teaching about cause and effect. And so storytelling and education are two sides of the same medal.
Thank you. And we are passing to our second section. First of all, how do you feel when you meet children or young people?
My heart melts.
And how is your working and writing environment? Do you have routine or any certain rules?
Yes, insomnia. Insomnia is very good for creativity. I wake up sometimes in the middle of the night and I have an idea. I can't sleep. There is the computer.
And when was the moment you felt you were a writer?
It was a dark and cold evening in 1999. I was sitting in a room full of students who were writing a French exam. I was teaching a course, a French course. And as I watched those students suffering, because exams are painful, I didn't feel good because I don't like to see the students suffer, but I had to give them this, I had to cause that suffering. I started scribbling just notes about a possible story. I had nothing else to do. That's how Jaden's Rescue was born.
And I want to ask about one of the happiest moments of your life.
Can I name three?
Of course.
Okay. First, when my family was sitting in an airplane on March 21st, 1974, leaving Moscow, going to Vienna. I will never forget that feeling. It was like breathing in. Second, when I married my wife. And third, I'll give you four actually, four.
Of course.
Third, when Jaden's Rescue was published by Scholastic in March of 2002, I remember very well that I came back from work and there was a book sent in the mail and I opened the package and I saw this and my eyes popped out because I didn't believe that it would happen until the very end. And fourth, when my good friend and mother of all my books, Nuren Beykan, said that she was very impressed by Asili Dain Kakine, because that is my favorite book. Cassandra is my favorite character. And when I realized that that is going to come out, I felt in seventh heaven, as they say.
Cassandra is my favorite character.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Too. Is there anyone you admire, want to be like, or see as a mentor in your life?
Yes. The classical Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu, who wrote, well, he's a mythical figure. He maybe never existed, but let's assume he did. He wrote the Tao Te Ching. I'm very interested in Chinese classical philosophy, well, Taoism specifically. And I picture Lao Tzu as a kind of hippie, sitting by the shore, meditating by the river, really chill, relaxed, never stressed out, and flowing with the river of life, always having the yin and the yang together. So maybe that's the person I would like to be most like.
And what are you reading? And what do you like to read?
I like to read popular
Especially
science.
in literature.
Oh, in literature. Okay. So because I have been involved in German language and literature studies for the past 24 years now, I read a lot of German literature. Ulitze, for example. I like to read the German classics like Hermann Hesse, and also post-war German literature like Günter Grass, for example, Siegfried Lenz. I love Uwe Timm. So that's fiction. I also read a lot of non-fiction.
Do you remember the last book which you read?
Well, I guess the book that I'm reading right now is a 4-volume history of philosophy by Richard David Precht, who is probably the most famous German philosopher today. and I'm on volume 3, and I'm in the middle of Nietzsche. So I can say that that's what I'm reading right now.
And let's talk about cinema. Which frame or scene of which movie would you like to be in? And another question, what are you watching in these days?
Okay. If I could dance like John Travolta, I would like to be in the dance scene from Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction, where he dances in facing Uma Thurman. I cannot dance like John Travolta.
I want to be.
I want to do that too. Yeah.
I want to dance also with Uma Thurman.
Like John Travolta, yeah. And what was the other question?
Another question is, what are you watching in these days?
These
TV
days.
series or movies which you like? Do you follow?
I love to watch French films. And where I live, because Canada is a bilingual country, we are fortunate enough to have access to French films on TV from every period. So one of my favorite films is called Amélie. It is one of the most charming films. Amélie herself is just tops, right? And so that's a movie that I could watch over and over again. I also love the movie Diva, which is from 1980, I believe. Also a very Taoist movie, I think, also very kind of hippie, relaxing, exciting film. So I could watch those over and over.
Do you have any favorite cities or places to escape? I saw your video, which you are on the river, and I think you like to spend your time in nature.
Yes. My favorite place by far is called the Bruce Peninsula. So if you can picture Ontario, so this is a very large province in Canada, where you have Lake Huron in the west, Lake Erie in the south, and a little bit further east is Lake Ontario. So that means London is right in the middle, and the Bruce Peninsula juts out into Lake Huron. So my family goes vacationing in the summer into the Bruce Peninsula, and there you have the crystal clear, endless cold waters of Lake Huron, which is essentially a sea because it has no end. It's like the Cara Denis, only not salty. And my favorite place to be is in a kayak on a quiet day in the limpid water, hovering over many meters of depth, just listening to silence.
Excellent. And you're lucky because of your geography
Yes.
you live.
Good geography.
What is the weirdest question you have ever been asked?
It was probably asked by one of the children that I have visited during my visits of schools on Zoom or even during this week. I'm trying to remember. Maybe it was, how old are you?
They are curious about...
Because it was out of nowhere. I thought they would ask me about my books, right? But the only thing that interested this child was, how old are you? And yes, it happened in Bursa. It happened yesterday in Bursa, in the cultural center. And when this child asked me how old I was, I said, how old do you think I am? And the child was about, I don't know, 8 years old. And at that age, all adults are old. Right? No matter how old you are, you're all old. And I thought he would say 90. But no, he paid me a compliment. He said 50. And I said, ooh, well, thank you very much. No, I'm actually 63. So maybe that was the weirdest question I was asked.
Children want to know about everything.
Everything, absolutely everything.
Okay, then, and your luckiest moment, you remember?
You know, in some ways, maybe my luckiest moment was when I made the right decision by agreeing to come here. Because it was a daunting proposition. You know, Canada is very far away. It's a big trip. It's a big effort. I'm not that young anymore. And, you know, when I thought of the jet lag and the difficulty of just adapting to this kind of trip. I could have said no, and I think I was very lucky that I said yes, because this had turned out to be absolutely perfect. Everything worked out. Usually, not everything works out. Usually, there's always something that goes wrong. Here, the program was like gears in a well-oiled machine designed by Tesla. You know, just astonishing. I still can't believe that everything worked out. So I think that was one of the luckiest moments I can think of, saying yes.
Thank you. Do you have a totem or superstition or something you can't live without?
I have to say that, remember that question you asked me about being in academia and in research? That's one of the things that prevents me from having any kind of superstitions or any kind of supernatural belief. So I really don't have superstitions or totems. So I would have to say no, I really don't. I am a boring materialist who just looks at cause and effect and reality and tries to understand it, and that's pretty much where I stop.
This is my favorite question. Is there a thing about you that no one knows about and that you're surprised that you have kept hidden until now?
Yes. I have always wondered what it would be like to have lucid dreams. So lucid dreams are actually something you can learn to do, and you can even take a class in lucid dreams. There are workshops. And a lucid dream is a dream where you're aware that you're dreaming, and that means that you can shape the dream and move it in any direction you want. Yeah? So if you want to become super strong and lift a building like Superman, you can do that. Now, I don't have the ability to do that. But I think once in my entire life, I had a lucid dream. I've never forgotten this. It was amazing. It was far too short. And I would like to learn to dream lucidly one day.
Thank you. And the last question is that we will dream of a dining table right now. And who is at that dinner? They can be anyone. And where is this food eaten and what do we eat?
My grandparents' table in Moscow.
Okay.
Where all the people that I have loved and lost are with me. My grandparents, my uncle who was killed in World War II that I never knew, my father whom I lost last year, all the dogs that have lived with me but are no longer alive. I would like them to be at this table, and I would like them to have bowls where they can eat anything they want, not just dog food. Yes, that is the table I would like to be at.
Thank you very much, Vladimir.
Rica ederim.
Efendim bugün Ayna'nın yeni bölümünde sevgili Vladimir Tumanov'u konuk ettik. Cevaplarıyla çok keyifli bir bölüm ortaya çıktı. Tekrar görüşmek üzere dileyelim. Hoşça kal Vladimir.